Hello everyone, we're here to just discuss a few things about trigonometry. This is the first in our series of trigonometry videos, and we're going to go over something very basic, and that's just how to label triangles and how to memorize the primary trig ratios. So the first way we're going to label the triangles is we're just going to label their corresponding sides according to the angles that are across. And so what we'll do is we'll just start off with A. The side that's directly across from A, we're going to label with an A as well, but we're going to use a lowercase. The side here, B, which happens to be the right angle, we're going to label with a B, but a lowercase b. And likewise, the one that's across from C, we're going to label as little c. Okay, and then that's going to allow us to talk about the side lengths that are across from the different angles. Now, another useful way to label triangles' sides are according to where they are in reference to a specific angle. So we're just going to look at angle A here. We're going to use that as our reference angle. So this becomes our reference angle. Okay, and once we do that, we're going to follow along this line here where we labeled side A, and that's the side across from big A. We're going to call that the opposite side. Okay, or just OPP. Now, thinking about the fact that this is a right angle, we know that side B here is the hypotenuse of this triangle. We're going to label that HYP to indicate hypotenuse. Now the other side I'm going to write out because it's the one that people oftentimes forget about or don't understand as well. And this is just the adjacent side, adjacent meaning beside, but not the hypotenuse. And we shorten that ADJ. Okay, now the fundamental idea about trigonometry is that if this angle is always the same, so say that this was maybe 60 degrees here, okay, going from there to there. If we drew another triangle that's really small, let's say like this, that still had angle A, which was equal to 60 degrees, then the ratio of the corresponding sides would always be the same. So the opposite divided by the hypotenuse would be the same because this triangle here, this little one, is the same, or sorry, is similar to this one. These are similar triangles. And because of that, as long as we use A as our reference angle, then the ratio of the sides are always going to be the same. So for example, the opposite divided by the adjacent for 60 degrees will always equal some number. Okay. Likewise, the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse of 60 degrees will always be some number. And it'll be the same no matter whether we do the adjacent here in this one with the hypotenuse here or the adjacent on the big triangle with the hypotenuse on the big triangle. Lastly, the opposite divided by the hypotenuse of 60 degrees will always be the same number again. It doesn't matter whether you deal with the small triangle or the large triangle. So this is a little clumsy, the way that we've labeled this. We can't go around writing this whole big mess every time. So we just shorten it. And that's the basics for all of trigonometry. So the opposite divided by the hypotenuse can be shortened to sine. That's just the name of opposite divided by hypotenuse. That's the name we give it. And likewise, we shorten that to just sin, but we never say sin, we always say sine. Now, it has to be sine of a reference angle. So in this case, reference angle A is equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. Okay, now the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. Again, we just shorten this because it's just clumsy to write. Shorten that to cosine, we give it a name, and we write just cos of reference angle A is equal to the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. And the last one, opposite divided by adjacent, we just shorten that by giving it a name, tangent. And we just shorten that again, writing tan of A. is equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. So you need to memorize this. You need to know that the sine goes with opposite divided by hypotenuse, and that cosine goes with adjacent divided by hypotenuse, and that tangent goes with opposite divided by, oh, I messed that one up. Let me clean that up. The tangent of A is equal to the opposite divided by the adjacent. Said the right thing, wrote the wrong thing. Okay, so we need to know it's opposite divided by adjacent. And so the way that we write, well, we memorize this oftentimes, is we just write so, ka, toa. So the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. The tangent is opposite over adjacent. So wherever you have the slash, that's over. Okay. Now look at this. Remember, there's always an angle there. If you just wrote sine, that has no meaning. It has to be sine of something. And so we're going to look at in the next couple of videos how you can apply this in order to find missing sides and angles.